In the land of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Hogwarts, Harry Potter has to find a secret chamber with a snake in it. We're going to be talking about Chamber of Secrets today.
With the snake in it. That sounds so
We're going to
weird.
be... Yeah, well, I didn't even think about that. But, hey, we're talking about Chamber of Secrets today. This is our 41st episode. We're actually recording this almost directly after our Dune episode, which is why we actually have something to say this week about what we've been up to in the past week. So, Anthony, what have you been up to since I spoke to you last week?
Well, watching our material for this week, of course. Like I said, I always like to get a nice, fresh watch in. And I've been bouncing back and forth between Metroid Dread. I've been trying to savor it and playing that game New World. That
you were telling me about that.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, but being a gamer, you do this. I'm also back on a stint with Overwatch. I hadn't played it for a little while, and now I'm back playing it. I play a little bit on console, but I mostly play it on PC. I just like the mouse and keyboard. It was weird at first when I first started doing it, but now I'm used to it.
Nice. Cool, man. So, what characters are you playing mostly?
So, what I'm trying to do, because I want to get back kind of into competitive, and it's a little rough when you're in the lower ranks. So what I'm trying to do is trying to play characters that kind of fit well with my play style and characters that can help contribute on the team. Say that somebody's lacking, I can do something to help boost that side. Sometimes there's characters who aren't doing so well. Say that you have a Reinhardt and they keep on charging into the enemy and they just keep on dying. So if, say, I'm playing Lucio at that point, I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me keep my character alive by maybe using Baptiste because he has this little immortality field thing. So yeah, just different stuff like that. I'm always kind of learning the game, and the game always kind of changes. So I like doing stuff like that, and it's really fun. But I know cool. You haven't really played too much in a long time.
I know. The game is almost foreign to me at this point. You know what I do want to get into now that they're doing a pretty significant update to it. Apparently, I haven't actually seen what the update is, but Animal Crossing.
Oh,
Horizons.
Right, yeah, that's dropping in November, and from what I'm hearing, this is going to be the only real significant update that they're doing, and that production on the game is really going to just slow to maybe patches and seasonal updates.
So this is going to be the next big, or the most significant update from this point on.
Yeah, just like Sora dropping on Smash Bros. That's the last character. Development on the game is pretty much done, except for maybe minor fixes and whatnot, which kind of sucks because, well, for Animal Crossing, because Animal Crossing really isn't that old. It came out last year, so we're only... I know we're rounding towards the end of the year, so it's almost 2 years old, but... It's
probably about a year and a half at this point.
Right,
It dropped right around when the quarantine began in March of last year.
Right, so for me, it's still pretty new. I'm thinking that you should probably... there should be, another, at least 2 big updates after this. It's before you actually... shelve the game developmental wise. But that's them. Maybe they want to work on something else. Smash Bros, they've been working on the game for years. It's been out for a while, so it makes sense for them to eventually shelve it. For Animal Crossing, I'm like, it's a little too new to talk about not developing anymore,
Well, it may be a waning player base, and it may just need the update to reinvigorate whoever's working on the project to say that, oh, there's still growth in this game. We can still work on it a little more, get a little more time and effort out of it. So we'll see.
That's true.
Obviously,
yeah. Once you progress through the beginning of the game and you've kind of developed up your island to kind of the way that you want to, there's really not much to do. I think most people, when they unless you're a diehard fan, but most of other people will hop on for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and then they're like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But you know, those first like 2 months of playing were really fun. It was super addicting. Just doing random stuff, fishing, collecting random materials, and selling items, selling turnips.
It was really addicting. Everybody else was playing it, so you had a lot of people that you could go and hang out with them and visit their islands. I really, really do think that Animal Crossing came out at the time that it was needed. I think that it really fulfilled something that people were missing. You know, I mean, you couldn't go and party with friends. I mean, the way that you and I are talking, that's how people had their interaction. But then they also had something else that they could interact with each other by going into each other's homes and you know, just kind of playing together. So, I thought that was really cool. That I think that was like a kind of like a big win for video games, because there's a lot of people who weren't really big in video games that hopped onto this.
True. Yeah. And people that, like myself, that like don't game as much were able to jump back in, and it was totally just fell right back into gaming and stuff. So that was fun. Have you been doing anything else besides playing Overwatch and stuff? Well,
you know me. Gaming to me is kind of like how TV shows and movies are to you. I mean, I have been watching anime. I've been catching up on Fire Force.
I've heard that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like a shonen firefighter anime where like they actually fight fire, but like it's hand-to-hand combat because people are combusting into these fire creatures.
That sounds fascinating.
Oh yes.
Speaking of anime, I do want to mention a couple months back, Crunchyroll was bought out by Funimation.
Right.
So, and they haven't really made any big moves as far as whether the Funimation stuff is going on to Crunchyroll or if Crunchyroll stuff is going on to Funimation, and how the dub system is going to work and the sub system, because the subs on Funimation titles that are also on Crunchyroll titles are very different, or not very different, but they have a different team working on that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious what's going to happen, like with all of this merging and stuff, because eventually they want to make some big super thing, and I have some theories.
Right, and I think that what they should do, because I know that Crunchyroll, I mean, unless I'm wrong, you know, and tell me if I'm wrong, guys. If you know anything else that's better out there. But I know that Crunchyroll, when it comes to the subs, like they're like the best.
I have always felt that way, yeah, and that's kind of why I've never really given Funimation too much of a try. But you know, back at New York Comic Con last weekend, usually there's a huge Crunchyroll booth. There was nothing Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
but Funimation had like 3 booths. So that seems to be what's happening, is that it's just going to merge into Funimation. And I think Crunchyroll was the bigger streamer in terms of like actual numbers, but Sony owns Funimation, so Funimation had more money.
Right.
And was able to buy out Crunchyroll. I'm not sure. Let me look that up really quick.
No, because I'm just curious, but yeah. Funimation is really, really good for somebody who wants to watch an anime that is dubbed, and you know, I'm not about that. You know, oh, subs better, dubs better, because there's some anime that the dub's really, really good, and so is the sub. And then some of the dub sounds kind of corny, and then sometimes in a world where there's so much distraction, a lot of people don't have the attention span or have really the time to sit and watch and read the subtitles, so dub really like suits them. True, yeah. So AT&T was the previous owner of Crunchyroll. So actually that's a pretty big company actually. So yeah, it is. It's sold, massive actually.
So anyway, I don't know, but we'll see how that merger completes in the coming months and years, because you know it took Fox quite a long time to merge with Disney.
Yes. Yeah, it took like would it take like a year or so?
I feel like we're still seeing that play out.
Yeah.
Because Free Guy, that movie with Ryan Reynolds, that was made primarily during its being a Fox owned movie, but they were able to add some stuff into it now that the Disney was also included.
That makes sense.
I think they had some like cameos and references to other Disney stuff, but
okay, so that makes sense. That's why I did see Free Guy, and there was some Star Wars and different references in there, so that makes sense.
But even like on the Marvel side of things, like you'd think that we'd have characters like Fantastic Four and X-Men already in the movies. It's been like a couple of years at this point, but they're taking their time with everything. So which I'm happy about.
Yeah,
Marvel's good at taking their time.
Yeah, we don't want to make a DC mistake.
All right. Let's not rag on DC. We ragged enough last episode.
Hey! I'll give them, their comics and their animated. Their animated series are really good. They do have a couple good series. I enjoyed Stargirl. I thought that was pretty good.
I haven't seen Stargirl, so I can't really say, but it's good to hear that you enjoyed that. And they're still killing it with the CW stuff. Obviously, it's not my brand of entertainment. I think it was a really cool thing 10 years ago, but with the advent and like the not the advent, but with the addition of like the Netflix Marvel stuff that came out, that really pushed the brand of like superhero stuff on TV into the next level. And everything since then has been just a higher quality of superhero TV stuff. So
no, especially with stuff like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki. Even a show like What If was pretty high caliber, even if it wasn't our favorite,
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, we've got a little bit of talking in and talked about what I've been up to. What about you, Dakota? What have you been up to?
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
Since last week, I've just kind of been on catch up, I haven't really watched any movies that we're not like currently covering on the podcast. But, I watched a little bit of Twin Peaks: The Return. I've been watching more of My Hero Academia, which has been fun.
Yeah,
I think I'm
great.
Like on 8 or 9 now. We're taking it slow, like a couple episodes a day. But it's been good. I have no complaints about that. We've been watching it dubbed, as I mentioned in episode 38, just because, like you said, some people have other stuff that they have to do while they're trying to catch up on stuff. And that's what Jen's up to at this point. She has a lot of schoolwork that she's got to do and all that. So
that's cool.
So that's what we've been doing. I am still reading the Star Wars novel Ronin. It's like a Star Wars Visions novel set in the Visions universe. The characters from the short The Duel.
You're right.
The one that's in black and white. It follows those characters past that point. I got to tell you, it's a really hard book for me to get into. At first really? I was really enjoying it at the a couple hours in, and then all of a sudden I lost the plot totally.
Oh, wow.
It's not hard to follow, I guess, but it's just not my style of Star Wars at the end of the day. I think it's a good book, but it's not necessarily my flavor. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, unfortunately. But I do plan on finishing it in the coming days. I got like 2 hours left on Audible. So that's that. As far as anything else, I haven't really been reading anything. I haven't been watching anything or playing anything. I haven't mentioned this on the show, but I quit gacha games a couple months back now. Yeah, a couple months back now, I quit gacha games just because I was losing sleep, honestly.
Really? Were you really? Were you like addicted?
It might have been a fear of missing out on events or whatever. Like, oh, there's a new event, so I gotta get all the characters on this, or I have to get all the tokens or whatever while the event is going on. And it was just I was taking up too much of my mental faculty. And since then, I've been making more videos. We've been better on time with the podcast. I've been getting better sleep. So all around, I think it was a good idea. Although I miss it, I enjoy it. I have all those. I have a lot of hours put into those games. So
yeah,
if I ever go back, it's fine. But I needed to take a break. So that's where I've been there. But anyway, should we jump into our discussion of the Chamber of Secrets?
Yes. Let's talk about the Chamber of Secrets and what the secret is.
It's a big snake. It's a massive snake.
So this movie is here. I can tell you in just like a few words. This movie is about a diary, a giant snake, and giant spiders. The end.
It's a pretty good summation of like the big. How do you call
flying
it?
Cars.
Yeah, there's a lot of like things in this episode. What's the word for it? MacGuffins isn't really the right word, although there are plenty of MacGuffins in this. But we'll talk about that and more over the course of this podcast. This is the longest Harry Potter movie.
I know you were telling me that. That's actually pretty insane because it doesn't feel like it's all that long.
Yeah, so let me look up longest Harry Potter movie. It is The Chamber of Secrets at 2 hours and 41 minutes. And then it's The Goblet of Fire at 2 hours 37, Half-Blood Prince 2 hours 33, Sorcerer's Stone, and so on. So this is the longest by at least a couple minutes, and it doesn't feel like the longest. You were mentioning that The Prisoner of Azkaban actually feels like the longest.
Yeah, because you get to a certain point where you start watching the movie twice, the same parts twice, but from different perspectives, of course.
Right. So, as beautiful of a movie as Prisoner of Azkaban is, I think it's actually probably the most, or one of the most cinematic of the Harry Potter films, just because it's, it's got a darker tone. The music's a little darker.
Yeah.
The characters are growing up as we watch them and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, so they kind of, in the first two movies, they kind of look the same. They look a little older in the second one, but then once you hit that third one, it's like they sprout.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they look like for the rest of the series, almost. That's the most significant jump is from 2 and 3. I do believe that this is Prisoner of Azkaban is the darkest and moodiest. Maybe moodiest is the right word.
But yeah, we'll get back. I mean, we'll get deeper into that when we reach it.
Yeah, but we're talking about it now.
Right.
At the very least, you're right that the fact that we have to watch a good portion of the movie twice is a little jarring, or not jarring. That's the wrong word, but it's tiring, especially on maybe not the first viewing, even though I don't even remember my first viewing. It's been so long. But as a repeat viewing, it's a movie that I'm just kind of like exhausted by already. Just thinking about it, I'm exhausted. Going through the pumpkin patch again and running up and down into the forest and oh no, Professor Lupin, blue. All right, we'll get into all that later, way down the line, maybe next year sometime, because we already have the rest of our shows this year planned out. But Chamber of Secrets, let's get into it, because believe it or not, Anthony, this is my favorite of the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, is it really?
It is. Yeah.
Nice. So what about it makes it your favorite?
I think it's, it still has, it's hard to explain. There's a certain mood that the Chamber of Secrets conveys.
Right.
It's a very fall movie, so it's a good time to watch it now. It's a very, it still has the heartwarming aspect that the Sorcerer's Stone has. It's still a feel-good movie at the end of the day. Whereas after this point, it stops being that. When it comes to Harry Potter, like the rest of the films are still, they're still like exciting and you want to watch them and everything, but they're not the feel-good movies that the first two are. And I think that's because Chris Columbus was the director on these, and that's how he wanted to interpret them. And then there's the fact that this is very much a play-by-play of the book. So
Yeah.
in my mind, the first two movies are pretty much canon, while the rest of them kind of veer off into their own little territory. So in my mind, this is exactly what happens in the books. This is the canon story at this point, you know? So I appreciate that. And they were able to capture the feel and mood of the books really well with this. So that's where I'm at with this.
I was also listening to the music, which the first two were composed by John Williams. Did he do any more, or was it just the?
He did the third. He did the third.
He
one
did the
as
third
well.
one. Okay. Yeah, and I'm like, man, this sounds like magical Star Wars.
There's certain motifs that you pick up.
Yeah, he has certain motifs that he uses in everything that he kind of composes that it's John Williams. Like I can watch a movie and just be like, man, who composes this? This sounds like John Williams, and more than likely it is John Williams.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see that too much with new movies nowadays because the guy's in his 90s and stuff. So every movie we get with his score at this point is kind of a miracle and everything, and somehow still amazing. He composed the last 3 Star Wars movies, and he did a fantastic job. He's composing the new Indiana Jones movie, which hopefully is a good film. It is a shame that we didn't get him for the rest of the Harry Potter films because the soundtracks do get lost in the mix past Prisoner of Azkaban, I've noticed.
Yeah, like some of them are pretty good, and then some of them are like forgettable.
Yeah, I think 4 is definitely the most forgettable for me. 5 is a little bit better, and then the last 3 are kind of just like tones. I don't know if am I explaining that correctly?
Right.
But like they're just kind of like
right.
I don't know.
And I feel like instead of like enhancing the moment, they're in the moment. Like whatever if it's like a dark moment, they play the music to make sure that you understand that it's like a dark moment,
I'm thinking about the scene in the graveyard in Goblet of Fire. They're Voldemort's coming back and everything. So, yeah, we're talking too much about the overall Harry Potter thing, which we'll probably do again and again throughout this episode that's recorded. But we should reel it in.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk more about Chamber of Secrets. And I mean, just to say it is hard to talk about one movie without talking about more than just that movie.
I know.
Yeah.
It is.
But yeah, no. So yeah, Chamber of Secrets, I agree. It still has that feel good moment. They still look like kids. It does have that seasonal feel to it. And then yeah, the rest of them, there's not that seasonal feel. Like that first one has like the
first one's very much a Christmas movie.
Right. It's like, yeah, very winter, very Christmassy. And then yeah, this one's like a fall one. So so that's how I feel about him. Some amazing CGI in this movie, and we're going to talk about that because what they were able to do with Dobby back in the early 2000s was insane. Like the lighting that they were capable of doing. So let's talk about that. We're starting off at the Dursleys' home, which is part of the magic of these movies. It's, this character who doesn't want to be in this position. He doesn't want to be in this place. He knows that the Dursleys have no love for him particularly. Right.
And he wants to go to his real home, which is Hogwarts. It's the place that he has. It's the first place that he's ever felt at home.
Right. It's the first place that he's felt like he's belonged and like he's found his people. The thing that I do like about Harry is that he does have that perspective, that non-magical perspective, because like everybody that's grown up in the wizarding world doesn't know much about Muggles, but Harry knows a lot more. So I think it's like pretty cool that like there's comments that he'll make, and I'm thinking like it's cool I think it's good to have somebody that knows this stuff.
And what I like about, the character of Harry Potter in this movie is a big subplot is the idea of pureblood families.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Harry Potter isn't necessarily pure-blooded because his mother was Muggle-born. So he's like 3/4 pureblood, and his father's lineage, from what I'm aware, is pure-blooded. So he's not necessarily a pure-blooded person, but he's shown the worst of Muggle society in the Dursleys.
Yeah.
They're just terrible people. They're horrible to him, and yet he's not embittered by Muggles.
Yeah.
Never is he like ever anti-Muggle, even though that's pretty much his only experience, is being bullied by Muggles.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show the character difference between him and someone like Lucius Malfoy, who's very pureblood. He's disgusted by Muggles. He points out Hermione's parents in the bookshop, and he just kind of sneers at them, and it's a disgusting contrast that this wizard, he's canonically a billionaire in wizard money, is so disgusted by a lowly Muggle who has no powers or can do no harm to him.
Right, because Hermione, she's Muggle born, and then they use a term for that, which is mudblood.
Yeah, I was mistakenly gonna call Lily a mudblood at first, and then I was like, wait, that's not right. Let's just call her Muggle-born. Yeah, it is pretty disgusting what some of these characters, will do to each other or try to rationalize in their head in terms of like what is pure or right and what isn't.
Right.
And I think it is reflective of the society that we exist in. We have a lot of racism in our society. We have a lot of unrest with people who think certain people should certain people should occupy certain things and certain people shouldn't, and that's 100% wrong. So this is I should say it's not necessarily a fun way, but it's an interesting way to get young readers and young viewers in this case to start thinking about their actions and how calling some people certain things is degrading and why it's degrading. And I think it's a well done piece.
Yeah. And I think that, with the world building for this second Harry Potter story was really good. It was really good because, when you hear like these certain terms, it's very obvious that it's an insult. And there's so many times that I've seen movies or read books and there's an insult in there. And it's like, okay, I understand that this is an insult, but it doesn't seem like it has much of it wouldn't bother me if somebody called me that. But like, mudblood, I think it hits a little closer to like reality, in a sense that I know that, I don't think anybody would want to be called mudblood. Essentially, you're calling them like a tarnished person,
Yeah, dirty blood. It sucks. Yeah, it's disgusting, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it. Actually, we're on the subject now. We might as well talk about the fact that Ron tried to cast a spell like Eat Slugs on Malfoy for using mudblood in Hermione's presence, and it backfired. And when they're in Hagrid's hut, he's like spewing up all these disgusting, huge slugs, honestly. There's a great line where I forget what everyone else says. I think Hermione says it's a really vile thing to say, and then Ron spews up a slug and he goes, "It's disgusting." And it fits so well with the conversation, even though he might be talking about the slugs, but he might actually just be talking about what the conversation's about. And it's just well written.
Right.
So that's a scene that I like. But all right, moving back, we're at Dursley's house. Harry hasn't seen his friends in a couple months. He hasn't heard from his friends. He doesn't know why he hasn't heard from his friends, but he's cooped up, and it's a big night for the Dursleys. They have some guests coming over. He's about to make his best sale. Vernon Dursley's about to make his best sale of his career, supposedly.
Yeah.
And basically they just want Harry to lock himself away, don't be involved. Because, inevitably whenever Harry's involved, something goes wrong. Not necessarily his fault usually, but he does have some magical influence over objects around him usually. So they don't want him anywhere near the couple that's coming over. I
think it's just in general. I mean, McGonagall makes that comment later down the line. Actually, between the three of them.
Yeah, she's like, "Why is it always you three?" or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they're always at the center of the mayhem.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So and it's funny because in this beginning part, Harry really has no control over this, but this is where we get introduced to Dobby, the house elf.
Right.
And
I think Dobby is a fascinating inclusion, especially when it comes to the actual way that they were able to accomplish it. We have Harry, we have Daniel Radcliffe acting with something that's not
there
in his. It's not there. He's acting with something that's just like a floating thing. He's lifting him up. He's shoving him into things, and so on and so forth. But the crazy thing is, this thing that is not there is interacting with objects that are there. Like, he starts grabbing a lamp, and that to me is the craziest, most impressive feat of CGI in this movie. To not only get the lighting right, but also get the lighting right on a lamp that is illuminating the object. And you see the shadows in the background.
Because he's hitting himself.
You see the reflection in the mirror. It's perfect. You see the shadow also reflects Dobby doing all this. They just nailed the lighting in this scene, and that's amazing because this was early 2000s. This was new technology. I think this was before Gollum was even in Lord of the Rings back in, I think, 2002. So yeah, this was big.
Oh boy. It was really cool. So we find out that Dobby is the one that's been intercepting all the messages, and it's an effort to keep Harry from going to Hogwarts because he says that something bad is going to happen and he wants to protect Harry, which is a little interesting because I know that Harry Potter is popular amongst like everybody, but Dobby in a sense is a little random. He kind of comes out of nowhere.
He does. So we learn later on, and if you're watching this, you've probably read and or have seen this movie, so spoilers all around. But we learn later that Dobby is the house elf to the Malfoy family. And the reason he realizes that Harry should not go to Hogwarts this year is because the Malfoys are planning a dastardly plot to bring back the Dark Lord, Voldemort. And in so doing, the whole plan was to leave a Horcrux with the diary of Tom Riddle in somebody's like bag or whatever. It was probably Lucius was going to give it to Malfoy, or Lucius was going to give it to Draco and bring it into school and just kind of leave it about. But it got to the point where they were in the bookstore and Lucius found the Weasleys and did a really cruel thing and giving this to some first year girl.
Yeah.
Who was, from a poor wizarding family and everything. It's just a crap thing to do. Lucius is one of those characters that's just irredeemable.
Right. Yeah, the actor, I mean, he does such a really good job at selling how sinister he is,
Yeah. But because Dobby knew the plan, he kept trying to stop Harry Potter, which, by the time that Harry gets into Hogwarts, it should be a little too late for Dobby to stop him from that, but he continues to make Harry's life a living hell throughout the entirety of the thing. He's really the ultimate antagonist of this movie. So everything that happens that's bad for Harry is Dobby's fault.
I know. He's like, why are you trying to kill me? It's like, I don't mean to kill Harry. Just simply maim him. It's still bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no,
it's still terrible. He's like, I'm just trying to protect you. And it's like, I mean, essentially, it's like, look, this is for your own good, and then you go to stab somebody in their leg or something to stop them from going somewhere.
Yeah, and I feel so bad for Harry when the cake that Dobby like drops on that person's head. I feel so bad because, like, if I were Harry at that point, I would have ran back upstairs like I had nothing to do with it, you know?
Yes, but then again, the Dursleys, you know that they would have been like, "Yo."
Oh no, the Dursleys would have known, but the people would have just been like, "What happened? That was such a freak accident," and they could have made any number of excuses, you know, like, "Oh, it was on the stove and it popped or something." I don't, whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
but,
no, it was fun. I like that little effect though. Like when the cake was floating, it had like these like little like cloudy wisps underneath it.
Yeah, what Jen was saying the other day, like house elf magic is interesting because we don't understand how it works. We barely understand how wizard magic works, really. But house elf magic is a little more powerful than wizard magic.
Yeah, they don't even use a wand.
Yeah, exactly. They have no need to channel energy through wands. Imagine if they did have wands, they'd rule the world. And I don't know what it is, but like Jen said something like, what if Harry just said, "Fine, I'm not going to Hogwarts"? Like, would Dobby have left him alone?
And psych him
I don't think so, because I think there might be something to like the power of your word, especially when it comes to a magical being like a house elf. So it may have been like a binding thing. Like, I can't go. If I say I'm not going, then I can't go. But also it's just a matter of the fact that like Harry doesn't want to lie. And that's a good thing. And it's a good thing to teach kids not to lie, obviously.
Right. You know, it's the little things like that help develop his character, especially as the movies continued to come out.
Yeah, so I love the line by Dursley where he's just like, "It's my nephew. He's very disturbed."
Oh my gosh, dude! Like the casting in these movies, and you know, it was so on point.
For sure. Yeah, the Dursleys were probably one of the best cast of everyone.
Yeah, they did so good.
Although
good.
I think
all three of them.
Yeah, especially Vernon and Petunia, in my opinion. Dudley, kind of, as the series went on, the actor lost a lot of weight and he started looking a little more handsome, and I think that kind of put a damper on the Dudley being the big dumb one. But so there's that. But anyway, they put a lock on his window, some bars up, and I find that scene pretty funny. Now that I'm actually like working construction, I'm seeing what Vernon is doing with the screw gun, and he's totally stripping the nail that he's like screwing in, and I'm like, why is he doing that? That's literally his job. Like, he sells these screw guns to people. And he's doing it all wrong. But I digress. That's not something most people would notice.
A little bit of insight
Anyway.
from Dakota.
A little bit of insight. So, story continues. Harry wakes up in the middle of the night. He hears a car rumbling by his window. And it turns out to be a Ford Anglia with 3 Weasleys in it. And
In the
it's
sky.
Floating. Yes. They break him out. And I love that they put so many locks on Harry's door that they couldn't even open it in time to like get him out of there.
It ended up backfiring on them. Like Vernon's like he's like trying to like hurry, but he still got in there quick enough to like grab him by his ankle, which was impressive.
That kind of guy falling from a second-story window would really hurt himself.
Ooh, man, he like fell on his
physical
back
therapy.
too. Yeah.
That physical therapy would be like months.
His size, his age, all of that, dude. Ooh,
yeah. That would not have been a good fall. And you know, Harry's just laughing it off as they go.
I know
the Dursleys.
He's like,
not
he
the
fell
Dursleys,
out the window.
Yeah, I really like what they did with the Weasley's burrow. You know, I think it's sufficiently magical, but also cozy. You know, their house, you know, you can tell that they're poor, but they're content. and they're happy individuals. And I really appreciate that they were able to capture that vibe with their burrow.
Yeah, no, like they really did do a good job in establishing these different settings, because I think reading, I didn't have a mental picture of how specific places looked. But then when I actually saw them in these movies, that's what I would picture reading the books now.
Right. Yeah, they did a really good job with that. I love all of the Weasleys. They cast Molly and Arthur so well.
Yes.
Dude, so many people in these movies are cast perfectly.
Fred and George.
I love when... Oh, yeah. I love when they they're all eating breakfast at the table, and Arthur comes in, he's like, 9 raids, 9. And then he sits down, he's just like, who are you? And then probably the best Arthur line in the entire series is when he goes, Harry goes, Harry Potter. And Arthur, with just a blank face, goes, good Lord, are you really? he nails that so well, and it fits his character perfect.
I know. Yeah, the characters are just, they did so well in bringing these characters to life, and I mean it really was believable. And I think that's why these movies are so beloved, is because at least you and I, we grew up reading them. And I've said this before on the podcast that if it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't have grown up reading them. But I mean, like, just seeing it on the screen, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is Harry Potter.
Yeah, I totally feel that. All right, let's jump forward a little bit, because we're spending a lot of time in the beginning of the movie. So let's speed it up a little bit as we go along. So they go to Diagon Alley, and they use flu powder, and Harry messes up. He says, diagonally.
I know, which, like, even if you mess up on that, it still says Diagon Alley. He didn't say Nocturne Alley.
Right. So it is a little confusing, like, how he still landed in basically Diagon Alley. It's just a street over. Whatever. Who am I to complain about that? But I do want to mention the flu powder thing, because I think that is supposed to be a class distinction thing. I think flu powder is like an old-fashioned way of travel, maybe a little bit dirtier, which is why, the Weasleys and everyone are, and Harry too, come out so dirty from their travel via flu powder.
Yeah.
And it may be the case, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but in the first movie, when they're on the train going to Hogwarts, Hermione goes, you have dirt on your nose, by the way, just right there, or something like that. That might be a reference to the fact that they use flu powder to get there.
Yeah.
I might be wrong there, but I don't know.
No, I think I agree. It makes sense.
You want to talk a little bit about what happens in Diagon Alley?
In which Diagon Alley or Diagon Alley?
We'll start in diagonally, and then
diagonally.
go over to...
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, this place, it's creepy. He like ends up in some like abandoned like shop, and
I think he actually ends up in Borgin and Burke's, which is like a super dark side shop that like pops up later on in the series.
Right. But it just seems abandoned. It seemed abandoned in that moment. And so, yeah, like he steps outside. It's obvious that he's in a bad place because it's like really gritty and dark, and all the people around him are like staring at him. It's like weird that how like one child can like draw the attention of like an entire alley. But he still did.
My question is, what were those people gonna do with Harry Potter? Because they didn't know it was Harry Potter. They were just like, "You lost, sweetie?
I know.
Come."
I know. She sounded like an old timey witch, like from like Hansel and Gretel. Like, where are you gonna go?
Right.
Let me bake you into this pie.
Yeah. So anyway, Hagrid finds them. They go over to the bookstore to get some material, and lo and behold, we meet our next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at this point. It's Professor Lockhart, Gilderoy Lockhart, which again is a perfect casting. I can't read that book again and not think about that actor.
I know, dude. Ugh. Like he did such a good job.
I love how slimy he is. Yeah, I love how full of himself he is, and everyone knows it. Everyone, like all the teachers are just like, oh really? You know, every scene that he says like, this or that, the teachers all like,
I know the perfect spell for
this
this situation.
Dude, I love Dumbledore's face when he says, "It's a shame I wasn't here. I know the perfect spell to reverse petrification," and Dumbledore just looks at him like, "Boy, shut up."
I know. He just like kind of like looks at him over his glasses, kind of like.
Yeah, he like kind of like drops his head to look over the glasses, and it just he's the worst. He's probably the
which gets me thinking, like, why did he let him teach there?
You know, a cursory glance over his life works that he's written about in his like autobiographies should be enough to like make you think that this guy has the ability to teach this class, because he's so at least he seems proficient enough in the defense against the dark arts, but obviously he's a total hack, and we see that again and again. And I love it. By the end of the movie, they tell him like, "Oh, you said that you knew where the Chamber of Secrets is. This is on you," and he basically just starts packing.
Oh yeah, for real.
What a jerk.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that this is happening, but yeah, peace. I know. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. I think that there's like, you know, certain things that we don't need to speak about, like, you know, especially in that beginning part. It introduces us to some like key characters. Obviously they go back to Hogwarts, but they take the long route because Dobby blocks the path to the train, and
Dobby's the worst.
He really is.
So they end up stealing their parents' car to go over to Hogwarts, and you know, almost get hit by a train. So the rest of the kids in the train, like the Hogwarts Express, were they also, dude? That would have been legendary. You know, like they would have been legends for the rest of their time at Hogwarts. Remember that time those two were flying their car instead of taking the train like the rest of us, because they just followed the train. The other kids had to have seen them.
Right. And then I thought it was pretty cool, and maybe not at first, because they did have that cloak on. Remember, they had that like invisibility thing. Because Harry's right. Like, just to let you know, most Muggles are not accustomed to seeing a car flying.
Right, and eventually, like, it was in the Muggle, like, paper and everything. Yeah, so that happened. They think they're going to get expelled, but they're not, obviously. But the Whomping Willow, that was the first time that we were introduced to that, and that nearly killed them. And then the car kind of just drove off into the Forbidden Woods for some reason. They never explain it, but you know, it's a good thing.
After it ejected them and all of their stuff, it literally like kicked them out. He's like, "I am done with you guys. You guys almost got me destroyed. I'm out of here."
Almost got me destroyed several times. Yeah, I love how some things in this world just have a life of their own. Anyway, so throughout the course of the movie, we start hearing whispers, or I should say Harry starts hearing whispers that are unexplained. He's hearing these threats like, "I will rip you, I will tear you, I will kill you." And all of a sudden people start becoming petrified. You know, it starts with Mrs. Norris, the cat, then it happens to Colin Creevey, and then it happens to... Or no, it happens to the other kid first. The kid that Harry... What's his name? That one kid. Anyway, it happens to another kid. And it also happens to Nicholas, or Nearly Headless Nick. And then finally it happens to Hermione. So it happens throughout the course of the film several times until someone's actually taken into the Chamber of Secrets to die.
Right. And we find out that that's Ginny Weasley.
Yeah, that's actually a really good scene. You know, the fact that Ron and Harry were there to, like, just, see that McGonagall was distraught. And, you know, all the teachers are like, oh, well, the schools are going to have to close now. And that's ultimately when they bring, or they task Gilderoy to do that, go into the chamber. But we'll talk about that a little bit later because we're going ahead of ourselves a little bit. So there's a lot that happens. You know, we can talk a little bit about the Quidditch match, because I think that was probably the most exciting Quidditch match that we see play out in the movies.
Right, and it was actually in this scene where I was really thinking about the music. I was like, man, this really sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, there was something to it that it just felt like Star Wars.
But yeah, no, it was interesting because there was, we find out later, but somebody had pretty much bewitched a bludger to follow Harry, and that thing was like going at him.
Yeah, even after the match was over. But it made the match really exciting. You know, I was thinking, though, someone like Dumbledore definitely has the wherewithal to be able to stop this bludger. He just lets it play out, you know? Like,
he's
a crazy old man.
He's like, that thing is obviously bewitched, but I'm just going to just let it go. I'm going to let it play.
He's just like, yeah, I'm going to let it play out. I want to see this match. Do you remember the Harry Potter Puppet Pal series? The funniest possible series. I love how they made Dumbledore just a crazy person, a crazy old man, because that's ultimately what he is. He's a crazy old man.
Let's things play out. Yeah, and then you actually like kind of realize you find out even more so the later you get into the series.
Yeah, for sure. I like the fact that even though Malfoy's father gave the Slytherin team, you know, the best possible broomsticks at the time, you know, they all got Nimbus 2001s. It's the model even better than Harry's model. Harry still gets the snitch. He's still the better player, you know? He's still more determined. It's not necessarily about how good your equipment is, basically. It's all about heart at the end of the day and skill. And Harry defeats Malfoy in that. And I love the look on Lucius's face when Draco like falls on his butt.
Yeah, like literally falls on his butt too.
Yeah, I love that.
It looked painful.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely split his pants there.
But yeah, and then Harry, he breaks an arm because the bludger hits him. He ultimately wins the match, and then, you know, your boy scurries on over, you know, says, hey, let me mend that arm. And then even Harry at this point is like, no, anybody but you.
I know. And he's just like, the boy doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh man, he's the worst, dude. Him and Dobby are just the worst.
They're agents of chaos.
Yeah, Dobby's trying to kill him or maim him, quote unquote, and he's clearly just completely incapable of doing anything. And you'd think that to keep his anonymity in terms of like how good he actually is, he would do as little as possible, because he's clearly bad at everything he does except for memory charms. Right?
Right.
So you think like, let me not duel the best duelist in the school. But no, let me duel Snape. I got this. He's so his self-worth is so high. It almost deludes himself. He deludes himself into believing that he's capable of doing all this stuff. But he's just the worst.
Right. And it's funny because he gets like knocked onto his butt, and he's like he was like, you know, essentially like, I allowed you to do that, but you know, I have the perfect counter for that.
Dude, I hate him. I hate him so much. Although, you know what? Playing, going back to when we were kids, the Chamber of Secrets game was so fun. I think that was the height of the Harry Potter games for me. Because, you know, you'd go around campus. It was markedly better from Sorcerer's Stone. You'd go around campus. You'd learn stuff from like the dueling club, which was what we saw in this movie, and you learned how to like defend yourself, and it was really cool. The best part of the Chamber of Secrets game for me was collecting all the chocolate frogs that were like scattered around Hogwarts.
Oh man,
so that was fun. That's a memory I cherish from like my gaming days. But anyway, we continue. During the duel, Gilderoy Lockhart and Snape decide that they're going to bring people from their houses up. So they bring up Harry and Draco to go at it. And Draco uses a spell called Serpent Sortia, and that basically produces a snake.
Right.
Like a magic snake. And for whatever reason, again, Gilderoy's like, I can handle this. And basically, like, if you translate his spell, all it does is ascendere literally means to throw up, like throw something up into the air. What was that going to do? Like, this guy's a total
snake
dummy. Yeah. Anyway, so it starts like trying to attack one of the students, and Harry starts speaking in Parseltongue, and that would actually be really creepy.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about it from the outside in, even Snape is just like, no way, what? Like, just the look on his face is just like, this is a twist, you know? What's crazy is that Snape probably knows why Harry is able to speak in Parseltongue. He's probably the only one in that room that knows the real story of, like, how Harry's mother died and everything. Even Harry doesn't know at this point. So it's kind of crazy looking at his expression in that scene. But anyway, the rest of the kids are freaked out. I love the part where they go back into the Gryffindor common room and they're just like, "Oh, that's what you were trying to do. It looked like you were egging the snake on."
Which in a way it kind of did, with like the way that he kind of looked a little intensely at the snake, and it really, really did look like he was kind of egging it on until, you know, towards the end of that interaction where the snake backs off. Right.
Yeah, so that's a great scene. There's so many great scenes in this movie, and overall the sense of adventure is pretty cool. They end up trying to figure out who the heir of Slytherin is, because on the chamber walls, where, you know, it's written in blood, like, the heir of Slytherin, it has returned and it's going to open up the Chamber of Secrets and all that. And this is happening alongside all the kids being attacked by the snake. Or, you know, you don't know it's a snake yet at this point, and that's ultimately why they have the duel. Like, the dueling club is so that they can protect themselves and protect the students a little bit better. Then we get into, like, the whole polyjuice potion bit of the movie, which I think is actually pretty fun. Even though, if this was real, this would be the most illegal thing possible.
Right.
Knocking someone out, like drugging them, which is what Hermione does to Crabbe and Goyle. She literally drugs them with these treats and everything. And then they basically masquerade as Crabbe and Goyle into the Slytherin common room. And
right. That potion alone should just be illegal.
Shouldn't it? It's first of all, it's disgusting. Why do all three of the kids drop the glass? Like, why can't they just, like, put it on the floor nicely, or, like, drop it into the sink? They all drop it onto the floor and it shatters. And every time I'm like, why did they all have to do it? Like, were they just following suit?
But yeah, and then it takes so long to brew this thing.
Yeah, wasn't it like over a month? Yeah.
I was like, I remember, like, the first time I was like, dang, a month? That's long. That is way too long.
They were trying to decipher or determine whether Malfoy was the heir of Slytherin or not. And I feel like there's a much easier way to determine if this guy is the heir of Slytherin or not. They could very easily have gone into the library and looked at, like, pure blood family lines. And Malfoy is, like, one of the 13 families that's, like, pure-blooded, that reaches back thousands of years or 1,000 years or something like that. They could have easily traced that back.
Right.
If he was or wasn't. Like, but no, they had to go the long way route and find the most complicated potion of all time.
That takes a month to brew.
Right? And anyway, I do like the scene, even though it is a little creepy. like the logistics of it are creepy and would be totally illegal if it were real.
Right.
But in the movie, in the book, it's fun. It's fun seeing them inhabit other people's bodies in terms of seeing them like try to play the part and everything.
Right. The Crab and Goyle actors did a really good job at that too. Like seeming like their characters, but not really, like out of character.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good way to put it. So it kind of sucks because that's the most acting that we see out of those two kids, and the entirety of the series. They do pop up here and again. Obviously, they show up for the rest of the series, but that's the most screen time they get is in this movie.
What was the reading? The reading line was in this one, right?
Yeah,
it was like, oh,
he had Harry's glasses
like,
on.
You wear glasses? Yeah, I was doing a bit of reading. You read?
I didn't know you could read.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That line always cracks me up.
I think that was improv, actually, if I remember correctly, from like the special features. So the fact that Tom Felton was able to come up with that is pretty funny. And so Tom Felton, the kid who played Draco Malfoy, is actually the oldest of all the kids by a long shot. Like he was like 4 years older than Daniel Radcliffe in Sorcerer's Stone, but he looked like a kid.
Right.
And then he had the biggest jump in terms of physical appearance in between this film and Chamber, or Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber. That's why he looked so significantly older in this one.
Yeah, he did look a bit older than they did when there was like that jump, but he still looked around their age.
Yeah, they cast that character well. I liked that a lot. So there's that. The Polyjuice Potion scene. They find out that Draco has no idea who the heir of Slytherin is. And I do love the little interactions where Draco keeps saying like really nasty things about Harry and Hermione and the Weasleys and Dumbledore. And they're just acting up, Harry and Ron and Crabbe and Goyle's bodies because they're still themselves. So they're reacting like Harry and Ron would, but they should be acting like Crabbe and Goyle would. So I love what's gotten into you two.
Dude, yeah, that was really good. And then Hermione, she accidentally took the hair of a cat.
Yeah, which she pulled out a bunch of hair and in the Great Hall and showed Harry and Ron like this is this person's hair, but it was very short. It was clearly like animal hair. It wasn't like a female student's hair.
Oh yeah, and I think it was supposed to be Pansy Parkinson.
Yes.
And her hair is like longer.
Yeah. So I don't know what.
What were you thinking, Hermione?
I would love to know what Madame Pomfrey, the school nurse, thought about the fact that this girl brewed a potion for over a month and did it wrong and now has to fix someone who's, basically like a human/cat. because apparently like it took a couple days to fix.
that was literally Cat Girl right there.
All right, let's move forward a little bit. We have to talk about the diary.
Right. We have to talk about the diary. Harry, he finds it, right? Or was it with Ginny?
It was with Ginny, but Ginny threw it through Moaning Myrtle's head, and that's why Moaning Myrtle flooded the bathroom, which is why Harry found the diary.
That's
so let's dive into that. Yeah. When Harry gets the diary, we see him take it to the Gryffindor common room. It's completely empty. And the only noticeable thing is that on the back of it, it reads Tom Marvolo Riddle. What I find kind of interesting, and I guess I kind of understand it, why didn't Harry look up Lord Voldemort? Like, I feel like he would know who the serial killer that killed his parents' real name was. By this point. But, I can suspend disbelief. If that's what the person and everyone else calls them, besides, like, he who shall not be named and everything, then I can understand Harry's reticence to actually look up what his real name is. He might have actually thought Voldemort was his real name.
Right. And There's also like such a fear behind Lord Voldemort that if he had asked questions, people would probably give him short answers, or like even if he like looked it up, a lot of people probably didn't keep enough like publication on him because they thought it was like a curse. I mean, just even saying his name alone, they thought that it would bring him back.
Yeah, it was almost it was a taboo to talk about him. So maybe the library wouldn't have had any information on Voldemort. Maybe it was such recent history that it wasn't even considered history at that point, so it wouldn't have been included. I'm sure Dumbledore would have told Harry a little bit if he had asked, but that's a story for another day. So anyway, he goes into the diary. He starts writing, like, I forget what he starts writing, but he realizes that the ink sunk into the page.
Oh yeah, he went to go write
like
on
a blot
it,
of
yeah.
ink, and that would be first sign that something's wrong. If I start writing in something and it starts disappearing, ripping that thing up straight into the trash, throwing it into the dumpster. Especially when it starts writing back to me. That's just a big no-no, that would be really creepy if you're writing something in a notebook and something starts writing back. Yeah, that would ruin my night for sure.
He would probably, he's probably like, I mean, because there's a lot about the wizarding world that he's naive about, and so that, for all he knows, that's probably a normal thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we know that he's still fresh to the concept of being a wizard and what is weird versus what is normal to him. Because the fact that he speaks Parseltongue and thinks that other students must also speak Parseltongue, or the fact that he's hearing voices in his head and other people aren't hearing voices in their head, it suddenly it doesn't click for him that this isn't normal behavior.
Right.
So maybe he just is unclear about what's normal and what's not normal behavior for a journal to do. So anyway, he's writing about the journal. Yeah, he's talking about hi, I'm Tom Marvolo Riddle. Do you know about the Chamber of Secrets? Yes. Can you tell me about it? No. ... But I can show you. And then Harry just gets sucked into this black and white world, which is actually another really cool effect. It's a simple enough thing to do, but it's always satisfying when you're seeing something black and white and then one thing is in color. And in this case, it's Harry Potter, who has a very bright red sweater on, and he's just inhabiting this memory, basically. And we later find out, down the line, that this memory is only exists in this diary because it's part of Voldemort's soul. It's like 1/7 or 1/8 actually.
Right. Right. We find out what it actually is in the last film, or I think it's like part 1 of the last film.
No. I think it's actually in. We learn about the Horcruxes in Half-Blood Prince, because that's when Dumbledore and Harry start going on the hunt for them.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're totally correct. It's in the last one where they start kind of looking around for it.
Yeah, or at least they start looking around for more basilisk fangs, because that's one of the things that can kill it. Anywho, we learn about the Chamber of Secrets and how 50 years ago it was opened up, and it Voldemort basically blames it all on Hagrid, which, dude, Hagrid's had a rough life.
He really has.
He took the fall for some girl dying in a bathroom, just because he had a big spider in a box. And I always feel bad for Hagrid, which is why I love this movie so much. Or it's one of the reasons I love it so much. The final scene where Hagrid comes back and he's like, sorry I'm late, and everyone cheers him on. It's we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's one of my favorite scenes of all Harry Potter. We learn more about that. We learn more about the Chamber of Secrets being opened, and then Harry gets pushed back into the real world, and life continues for a little bit until someone has taken the diary from his bedroom and destroyed everything in its wake. how hard must Harry have hidden that book for Ginny to have ripped up curtains, like broken glass windows? Things were totally overturned. Like, she did so much damage. That, like, 11-year-old girl did so much damage in that room just to find a diary that was probably on the table. You know, Harry probably didn't remove it from the table. So there's that.
You know, there's very little bit to talk about between like what we've been talking about up until the end. I mean, yeah, you mentioned Hagrid gets sent to Azkaban. Dumbledore gets suspended because of all the stuff that's happening, and
Hermione gets petrified as well.
She does, yeah. And you also actually find out that the reason why that they don't get killed is because every single one of these beings that got petrified, kind of, they looked indirectly into the eyes of the basilisk, whether it be a reflection or through something else.
Yeah, this was not a very good basilisk. You know, he was very bad at his job. All he had to do was look into someone's eyes to kill them, and he's very bad at his job. So he petrifies, 5 individuals? So Hermione, Colin Creevey, the other Gryffindor kid, Mrs. Norris, and nearly headless Nick. Why can't I say that name? Obviously, nearly headless Nick probably looked at it straight, but he can't die twice, so it doesn't really count. So four individuals on 4 different occasions. This assassin basilisk failed. Anyway, so we end up learning that Ginny Weasley has been taken, and Ron and Harry end up helping, or trying to help, Gilderoy Lockhart in finding the Chamber of Secrets, only to find that he's basically starting to pack up to run.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So they bring him over to spot where they think the Chamber of Secrets is. Moaning Myrtle explains that she was the girl that died all those years ago, and the last thing she remembers seeing is those 2 big yellow eyes from that sink right there, which conveniently has a little snake on it.
Right.
They go into the Chamber of Secrets after a little parcel tongue magic from Harry, and that's where we are at the end of the movie, basically. So that's kind of the big climactic finale, is Harry finds Ginny like unconscious on the floor, and like a mostly living apparition of Tom Marvolo Riddle, who tells Harry that I am Lord Voldemort, which is kind of a fun little acronym of his name.
Yeah.
Or anagram. Sorry, it might be anagram, yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool, and we were talking about the CGI, and the CGI for the basilisk was actually pretty good too. And there was also some practical moments for it also, which was like really awesome.
Yeah, we spoke about practical effects a lot in our Dune coverage in the last episode, but this is also a movie that incorporates a lot of practical as well. And with the basilisk, you can just tell there are certain scenes that just look real. You know, it's not all CGI. In fact, probably half of it was practical. And I really appreciate that. You know, the scene where Harry is stabbing through the basilisk and it's like cutting him and everything with its teeth. Yeah. That's practical. It's not CGI.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And it just, because it looks tangible, because it looks real, it just feels, I don't know, there's more of an emotional attachment there, you know, instead of just a computerized object. So I appreciate that a lot.
They do the same thing with Fox, the Phoenix.
With Fox and with Aragog. We didn't talk about Aragog, but I hate that scene so much. So that's my least favorite scene of all the Harry Potter scenes, even though it's in my favorite movie. Aragog and the spiders. The spiders were mostly CGI, but Aragog was a big puppet.
Yeah, and they learn, and Hagrid sends them there to like learn more about what's going on and what's in the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, I'm sorry, listeners. We're so all over the place with this movie, but it is a long one, so please cut us some slack. But we're jumping back and forth. We hope our conversation and our coverage of this film is at least eye-opening in certain degrees. You know what was eye-opening to me, actually? When Harry, Ron, and Hermione go back to the common room, and they're talking about Parseltongue and how, like, they didn't realize that's what Harry was saying to the snake. In the background, the fireplace, the flue is closed. So there's a bunch of smoke getting into this room. And it's actually really bad, for you to inhale that. So these poor kids are acting while there's just a bunch of smoke being let into the ceiling. I wonder if the fire alarm went off, actually, in the studio that they were filming that in, because that was a lot of smoke in the background of that scene. Anyway, little random thing that Dakota noticed. Again, back to the chamber that is secret. One of my favorite scenes is actually when Gilderoy tries to steal Ron's wand, and Ron's wand backfires all the time, and he ends up casting the spell on himself, the memory charm, and he's just an idiot,
Right. He's
just like, do you live here?
He's like, hello, who are you? Who am I?
I love when Ron's like, no, and just hits him with a rock.
I know, he's like, I don't have time to deal with this.
Yeah, I love that. I love stuff like that. So anyway, Harry comes up with the bright idea to stab the diary with a basilisk fang, not knowing that it's one of the only things in existence that can kill a Horcrux. Very lucky that Lord Voldemort surrounds himself with dangerous objects. So that worked out in their favor in this instance. It's also interesting that Harry was able to summon the Gryffindor sword.
Yeah.
And I like that it came out of the hat.
Right.
Like he was able to pull it out of the hat.
Yeah, Fox comes in. Fox comes in twice. Once to blind the basilisk, so he can't. So essentially, he saved Harry from being killed by looking into the eyes of the basilisk, and so he made like the fight a little bit easier for him. And then he brought the sword but he brought the sorting hat where the sword of Gryffindor kind of just appears in it.
Yeah. So there's those two instances where Fox comes in, and there's also the instance where he comes back to like cry into Harry's wound, which saves his life.
Right, and this is like one of the practical scenes with Fox.
Yeah. So I like that a lot.
And Fox is super strong.
Yeah, so early in the film, like when Harry first walks in Dumbledore's office and Fox burns up, and he doesn't realize that Phoenix is like, come back to life in their ashes and everything. Dumbledore says that they are like remarkable creatures. They can carry a bunch of weight, and their tears have healing ability. And we see both of those things utilized in this climax. And it's almost kind of a cop-out a little bit, because it's literally a god in the machine. But, or I should say he's not a god in the machine in this instance, because they prefaced it earlier in the movie that he was able to do all these things. And then he did it anyway.
Yeah, it was funny. And then Lockhart's like, oh my gosh, it's like magic.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's an idiot.
There's a bunch of really great stuff in this movie. And we can probably keep talking about little individual scenes.
Of course.
Forever. I do want to touch upon the final scene when, Hermione comes back, and, Harry and Ron are so excited to see her. And I love that it's Ron that pops his head out first, because, eventually, like, they get together as a couple. But you can start to see the crush develop in this instance, because you could see that he's very much, he's very close with her. And then there's that awkward moment where he doesn't want to hug Hermione, and she doesn't want to hug him, because there's something there, but we don't see it yet, And then, of course, the Hagrid scene when he walks in. And he's just like, sorry, I'm late. And he starts talking about the owl that got lost in transit, Errol.
Yeah. And Ron is kind of like, ooh, whoops.
But this is one of the more touching scenes for me, because really there is no Hogwarts for Harry without Hagrid. Hagrid was there at the start of his wizarding journey.
Yeah.
And it kind of came full circle for him in this film where he was able to save Hagrid from a life of imprisonment.
Right. He introduced him to this whole world. He was the one that brought him into a place where he felt like he belonged.
Yeah, if you think about it, Hagrid took Harry out of a life of imprisonment from the Dursleys. So it kind of came full circle in the sense that Harry got Hagrid out of prison from Azkaban. So it's kind of, there's a little bit of a parallel there. I might just be looking into things too hard, but when everyone starts clapping, I love that scene because Hagrid is probably one of the most overlooked individuals in the wizarding world, just because of who he is. He lives in a hut outside of a school, and he's just the gamekeeper basically at this point. He's not he doesn't have any professorial duties at this point. So that was just a really nice moment for Hagrid, because this is a character who probably doesn't realize his self-worth with the students and with the school and with others, because he's been so neglected and so beaten down over the years. He was falsely accused of murdering someone 50 years ago and stuff. So it's cool that pretty much the entire Great Hall gives him that moment.
Yeah, no, it's nice. And Hagrid is a great character, and I do think that it's great that we continue to see him as the story keeps on going, and that relationship that he has with Harry and Ron and Hermione, that it grows, and really it's familial, essentially, like their family.
Yeah, they are. And at the end of the day, it is feel good, even though there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. There's a lot of crazy drama and life-threatening things that occur. At the end of the day, it's a feel-good movie, and that's why I love it so much. Right.
No, I agree.
Any final thoughts?
This film is good.
Very well said. Yeah, I don't think I can say it as concisely myself. I think it's it's kind of a perfect film for its time. Yeah. Too. Especially considering, at least on a personal level, this film came out, the actors were maybe a year or two older than we were when these movies were coming out. So
right. It was a lot easier for us to connect to these films because we essentially grew up with the characters.
It was a cool little thing that happened when we were kids, and kids that watch these films nowadays, I'm sure they can still get a little bit of that, but there was something in the moment, in that time period for us that just made it a little closer to home, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's our coverage of The Chamber of Secrets. We hope to cover The Prisoner of Azkaban sometime in 2022. But if you are interested in checking out what our upcoming episodes are, you can go over to our Twitter, PGeekology, to see the basic lineup of the rest of the year and when everything's going to drop. So I'm excited about the future content that we're going to be talking about here on the show. Next week, we should be covering Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Yes, we will. And then that'll be essentially a part 2 to our Dune discussion.
Yeah, because if you haven't listened to our Dune discussion from last week, we had a lot to say and a lot of confusion mixed in with that. So I hope that the upcoming Dune film will help allay some of that confusion and recontextualize what we saw in David Lynch's Dune.
Yes.
So we will get back to you on that after we see the new movie. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to us here for our 41st episode.
Yes.
And we hope to hear your comments either on social media. We'd love to continue the conversation as we go, as well as please be sure to leave us any positive feedback on wherever you listen to your podcasts, because we love reading that stuff on the show. We love reading it on our day-to-day lives, because seeing positive confirmation that we are, people are listening to us and interacting with the content goes a long way.
Yes, I agree. We love reading this stuff, and we love building on that and just getting better.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We hope you listen in next week for our coverage of Dune. Have a good one.
Bye.